AFC North brothers and sisters and NFL fans alike, welcome to another episode of the Steel Flock, an AFC North podcast. We're your co-hosts, Matt and Ryan. The NFL released its 2026 schedule a little over a month ago, and shout out to the Cleveland Browns because I felt their schedule release video was the most entertaining. In this episode, we're going to talk about those schedules, but from a little bit different perspective. I think it's pretty common sense that rest days are crucial in the NFL. And today, Matt and I want to dive into those numbers that actually demonstrate how important rest days are for teams. And before we dive in, please take a quick second to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And without further ado, Matt, take it away.
All right. So, we're going to do as comprehensive an analysis as we can of the stuff that kind of I think you care about too, the AFC North race and the bigger AFC race. Because I think at least three of the teams in our division are looking for that Super Bowl this year. So, those, to us, I think are the most important, questions that we want to answer. How does the schedule impact those two races? So we're going to start off kind of big picture with the whole AFC field and then try to break down for you, because I think I need reminding every time, how is the NFL schedule created? Like, how are the opponents and all that stuff generated, and how that breaks down for this specific season and our opponents. And then we're going to run through all four schedules in detail, game by game, with the rest days, which have been covered, I think, to some degree by some analysts. But I don't think anyone else has done mileage advantage. So just looking at not just the total travel, which people talk about, but for each game, what's the mileage advantage home and away that we're looking at for each team. So with that being said, this is how a quick just snapshot of the division, some of the things we're going to be looking at: 3+ days of rest advantage, 3+ days rest deficit, and how those days stack up over the course of the season for all the matchups, but particularly for the division games, which are, at least doubly important. The mileage advantage, total miles. And, as we kind of will get into, the little nuances of the schedule differences for each team based on our last year's finish. So again, that's a quick snapshot. And, here is the AFC field, the whole field, just ranked by the Vegas odds currently. And we've highlighted, some of the AFC North teams. Some of the haters out there might be a little bit surprised to see who's at the top here. But we got, the 4 AFC North teams highlighted. And then the first column here is the strength of schedule, how tough the opponents are. The second column is just the rest advantage rank. So net rest days, how many more days of rest did they have than their opponents over the course of the season? And then just how many actual days those are. So I think this sort of gives a quick picture into, again, the runway that each team is going to face as they try to get, that Lamar Hunt trophy for the AFC. And you can kind of see a little bit in a lot of times how the NFL is maybe trying to balance the strength of schedule with the, the rest days that the teams have. So, right at the top, the Ravens have the 6th easiest schedule. And going down the line, Bengals are 3rd, Browns are 4th. Steelers are a little bit behind at 18th because they're playing a first place schedule, which we'll talk about a little further on. But right at the top there, the Bills, they have kind of a middling strength of schedule. As we all know, they were actually 2nd place, so they're playing a 2nd place schedule. But they're 2nd in rest advantage. They've got 14 more days of rest over the course of a season than their opponents. And you would think that, when they make the schedule, the NFL would kind of take more of these factors into consideration, where you wouldn't have this big a gap between the Los Angeles Chargers at -24. They have basically a full month business days less rest than their opponents over a schedule that only lasts like a quarter of the year. It's kind of just unbelievable. And again, the Buffalo Bills get 14 extra days of rest, like literally 2 more buys over their opponents, which, is a huge advantage, I think, if you're talking about like a middle of the road-ish strength of schedule. So Yeah, Ryan, what are your thoughts kind of looking down the list of the AFC field here?
Well, you have the Ravens at the top. Okay, yeah, well, whatever. Um, but and I know that the Steelers did win the division last year, so of course, I'm not surprised that their strength of schedule would be harder. What did surprise me was just how close to the top the other three AFC North teams are, right? So you have the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the third easiest schedule, right? Followed by the Browns, and you have in the fifth, you got the Jets, and then you have the Ravens, and then you got to go all the way down the list to get to the Steelers. So I would say that actually kind of surprised me a lot was just how bunched up at the top that the other three AFC North teams were. So it'll be interesting for us to, kind of continue diving into these schedules. And I'm a casual fan, right? I mean, I love the Steelers. I'll forever be a Steelers fan, but I'm not as into the analytics as much as you are. And so I love doing these episodes with you because I always learn so much. And it never really occurred to me like, and I'm sure there are other years that had similar issues such as this. And when I say issues, I mean what you were just talking about, the Buffalo Bills. Basically, yeah, have two extra bye weeks worth of rest as compared to the Chargers, who are at a negative 24 net rest advantage. I mean, that's brutal, man. And I thought it wouldn't be that bad. I think I would assume that the NFL would try to at least make them somewhat equitable, those net rest advantages. But the fact that it's so, that gap is ridiculous. And man, what did the Chargers do to deserve this? That's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I would
crazy.
bring that up at every press conference if I was on their coaching staff. I would just put a counter. How many net rest days disadvantage have we had so far this year? And I would just keep increasing the number every time. Just
I know.
kick off my press conferences.
Jeez, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, they just can't win. I mean, they got the injury, bad luck last year, and now looking at the schedule, I mean, it's a pretty tough schedule and just a horrible rest day. And you consider as a West Coast team, they're traveling so much too for all of these games. Like it's just
Yeah,
brutal. So,
it's
I mean,
it's
that's
tough.
one contender. Yeah, looking at it's a contender that maybe they can't do it this year. It might it might be over this term. You know?
Yeah, no, and I guess the NFL script writers are really trying to get Josh Allen that ring, man, with that much
Yeah,
rest days.
because yeah, keep in mind that the schedule, the strength of schedule is mostly set, right? They can't move. They can't kind of put their finger on the thumb on the scale that much. It's really the rest advantage where they can really kind of screw these teams over or push them up one way or another. So yeah,
Absolutely.
and yeah, again, just I wanted to kind of paint this big picture at the start because looking at this last year, the AFC was almost decided on paper already with the Patriots schedule. Everyone knew that they had the smoothest possible runway to the Super Bowl. And it took a lot of luck. It took the Bo Nix injury. It took a lot of other things happening, but they got there. And this is, the biggest thing that has nothing to do with, actual team strength that manipulates who gets to win in a single elimination tournament format like the playoffs. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
All right. So with that being said, we wanted to get into how, because I think it's kind of opaque and it's gotten even weirder with the 17 game schedule. But how, what goes into an NFL schedule? So the most important thing, and we'll dive into that more, is the non-common opponents, right? If we're talking about schedule and the race for the division in particular, most of all but three of the games are going to be with shared opponents. So it's pretty fair within the division that way. we're kind of facing the same teams. It's those non-common opponents where the difference is. So in your same conference, your finish in the division last year will determine that matching teams finish in 2 of the divisions in your conference and then 1 in the opposite conference. So you'll get a home. The Steelers are going to get a first place finisher in another AFC division at home and then another away. And then they're going to get an NFC division first place team from last year. And it could be either home or away. That's part of where there's some leeway in the schedule. And then common opponents, we're going to all as AFC North teams play 1 division in the AFC, 1 division in the NFC. And then of course we've got, the six game divisional slate, which is, every year. And another thing that is just funny to me that I think a lot of people don't know is that the AFC and NFC are going to alternate who has 9 home games versus who has 8 home games. And, that seems weird, but again, until the Super Bowl, it really doesn't matter, right? It's really just you're really just competing for your same conference, right? So whether we all, as the AFC teams, have 8 home games or 9, it doesn't really matter until the Super Bowl. And even then, it arguably doesn't really matter that much at all. So that's, again, sort of the formula of the, putting together an NFC schedule of opponents. And so here's how it actually breaks down this year. So we're all going to play, the AFC West in terms of the non-common opponents. Who had the same divisional finish first, second, third, or fourth? It's going to be the AFC West, the AFC East, and the NFC East. So those are going to be where the 3 non-common opponents are going to come from. And then in terms of our common opponents, it's going to be the AFC South for the AFC and the NFC South for the NFC. And so this is our year to get 8 home games, which, again, I said before that the 8 home games versus 9 doesn't matter that much. But where it kind of does matter is, I think, if you are in the conference with less home games, you are going to get slated for a lot of international games. So 3 of the 9 international games have AFC North teams in them, which is a little bit, overrepresented, I would say, right? And how that breaks down is, Steelers, Ravens, and Bengals are all, teams the NFL maybe wants to showcase to their international and grow their audience. So we're traveling all, right? Browns are staying home. So that means they're basically trading an international game for an extra road game. So I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? Would you rather have an international game with a long travel at a neutral site or an extra road game that's at another team's like true stadium? If you had to pick, what would you go for?
The road game. I would go with the road game. I mean, I know it's a little more of a hostile environment, but time difference, travel, getting acclimated to wherever, whether it's London or Germany or just all these other international places, that's a lot of travel. And if you don't have a bye week after your travel, I think that kind of just like messes up your body clock, and it's just. And then if you get injured too at an international stadium, I don't know how that additional travel, especially air travel, when you're injured, it probably kind of affects you more than if you're just traveling from, say, Pittsburgh to Houston and then back again versus Pittsburgh to, I can't remember if they're Berlin or something like that, and then back. So if you're dealing with injuries, that shorter distance to get back home, I think is really important.
Wow. Yeah, I really hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I mean, you're probably more likely to get injured when your body is, metabolically kind of like, out of sync. And then, yeah, I mean, you might not even be able to fly back, right? I mean, if you have too much inflammation or something, you might not be able to fly back and your surgery might get delayed. Yeah, I mean, the low end outcome is way worse, actually. Yeah, now that I think about it more. So those are a lot of good points. Okay. So yeah, I mean, in a sense, our teams and the Bengals are getting punished for being good enough to market the NFL abroad, versus the Browns who just, we'll go into, but they just have a, another short road trip. But huh. But yeah, so again, that's the sort of runway that we're going to be going through. And so again, keep thinking about those divisions there, right? And the geography here. So here's a quick visualization of those rest edges from Warren Sharp's site. We can see here the Chargers, right? Four teams coming off a bye. It's you would have, it would seem like it's easy enough to have each team somebody plays you off a bye and you play one team off of a bye, right? Why would you have it one team that has to play four teams coming off a bye, right? And Buffalo here. I mean, look at this.
Jeez.
No one coming off a bye. So you're never at a real disadvantage. And you've got a whole lot of advantages here, arguably. So it's crazy. But again, this to me is one of the what really kind of made me want to dig deep on this episode. So this is looking at how many games are you winning outside your division, which I think is a good measure. Okay, how good are you, right? Versus like the dog fights in your own division, right? What's your win percentage in non-division games over the last 4 years? NFC North, they're really good, obviously. I mean, with the way the Lions have rebuilt, all that stuff, they're good. But right behind them is our division, the AFC North. I mean, obviously, that's part of the reason why we're doing this podcast. This is our own brand of football that I think crushes teams when we play them, more than others. But you scroll out on the bottom here. We're looking at our division opponents are the two worst divisions. And I think that is huge. And even beyond that, our non-common opponents, divisional opponents, those are also bad teams, right? Bad divisions, at least. Obviously, they're not all bad. On top of that, they're all on the East Coast. So, I mean, other than the AFC West, which we'll get into, which is another factor, but I really do think that this is I would call it a once in a window opportunity. It's very possible that Lamar, Burrow play long careers, successful careers, and they might never get a schedule this favorable in the prime of their careers. Like this might be the year to try to go on a Patriots run and win the Super Bowl. And so I think it really makes the Bengals move to get Dexter Lawrence and kind of trade some future equity. Like, I really get it looking at this schedule. Like, this is I mean, this is the year to go all in, I think. But yeah, what do you think, Ryan? Do you kind of get that same tingly feeling? Because I think that I was thinking of the same thing with the Steelers, right? Why are the Steelers rebuilding, right? And
No, I had no clue. I had no clue about this at all. So when you lay it out in front of us that against other teams, the AFC North is close to the NFC North on just doing really well. And then it just so happens that all of our schedules this year focus on the kind of bottom divisions. It's like, wow, that kind of compensates maybe a little for the international games and the one less home game. Who knows, right? But I think forget Burrow and forget Lamar. This is going to be Rodgers. This is his last year, as he says, right? So, yeah, Steelers all the way. They're going to just take it. And then, the Hayward can get his ring, Watt can get his ring, and then we can completely rebuild after that. But no, I had no clue about this, and this could be a very exciting year for all four of our teams. Browns, we'll see, but at least the other three teams. I think that it also makes me nervous though. Come playoffs time, it's like, or I should say, the weeks leading up to the playoffs, because if our three teams are doing well and it's like relatively close in win-loss record, those final weeks when some teams start to kind of ramp down, our teams might have to ramp up just to get that divisional win, that first place win.
Yeah, I mean, with the way it is scheduled, yeah, I mean, AFC North teams, whoever makes it out, might be really beaten up by the time the playoffs come around. But yeah, I mean, big picture, I think a lot of people were calling for a rebuild for the Steelers, but this makes you think, like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Steelers org was looking at last year, like, could we be as good as the Patriots were in 2025? I'm sure they think so, and they could be in the Super Bowl. And, once you get to the Super Bowl, anything can happen, so
Yep.
um, I think it would be to just do a fire sale on the Steelers right before this opportunity. I think you might really regret that. You might be sitting there with an even better record than last season,
Yep.
even
Yep.
trying to tank and think, well, why didn't we go all in for
Yep.
one more ride? So,
Yep. No, I agree now. It's like I thought that yeah, it was time for a rebuild, and of course it started with Tomlin and Rodgers and all that kind of stuff. But seeing this, it gives me a little more optimism, and it makes more sense now that why the Steelers are trying to just go all in for this year. And obviously, this is a huge reason why. So crazy, man. I had no idea, no clue, not a clue
yeah,
about any of this stuff.
it's somebody's year. I feel it. I truly do think it's going to be somebody's year from this division. So yeah, I mean, we're going to run kind of through the through the teams in the division now. So this is just a quick overview here of the Steelers and what we're going to get into. But I would say Steelers get the double whammy, right? They are playing a first place schedule, and I think they arguably have the toughest schedule in terms of rest days out of any of the teams here. So, 2 games with a 3+ day advantage, but 4 games at a deficit. So that's a pretty big difference. -6 over the course of the season. So almost a whole bye disadvantage. But in the division, they're +3 days of rest advantage. So that's mitigated a little bit, right?
I'll take it.
Um, yeah. So total miles traveled is 26th most. Again, that's a reason why we're bullish on this year is the total miles traveled is low. The net miles is also low too versus the opponents, but we'll get into that.
That 14,000 include the international game travel too?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does.
So, yeah. So for the non-common opponents, an average of 10 wins. That's are projected for in Vegas for this year. That's tough, obviously. Week 9 bye, I think that's pretty good.
It's not bad.
And yeah, so and an 18th strength of schedule. That's kind of how just kind of setting the table here for the Steelers schedule. Any thoughts off the top there, Ryan?
Wow. 14,000 just seems like such a huge a lot of miles to travel, and 26 months, like I can't even imagine who has like rank number 32, like who what their mile count must be horrible. But just the information here just totally aligns with what we were talking about in the beginning, where Steelers have that tougher schedule, and that tougher schedule includes more of a rest day deficit than an advantage. Bottom half in terms of total miles traveled, divisional finish, opponent average, just under 10. I I came into this with little to no expectations. And what I mean by that is, because I've never done analysis like this, I'm kind of just a sponge right now, soaking up all the information that you're sharing today. So my opinion is it is what it is based off of how we won last year, won the division last year, and we just have our work cut out for us. That's my opinion to it.
Cool. Yeah. And so we're gonna give that kind of preview, but I did want to drill down a little bit more on the non-common opponents. So AFC West first place matchup, Denver, pretty tough opponent. But the AFC West is so competitive right now that if you want to bet on them in Vegas, they have kind of long odds for the division. They're the third highest odds in the division to win. So a lot of that is probably maybe betting that maybe Bo Nix's recovery is a little bit slow. Who knows? And then of course the Patriots, who played an easy schedule. As much as I want to crap on them for that, well, they did beat the Ravens, so I can't I can't just say it was a total cupcake schedule, right? But yeah, you're playing the Super Bowl representative of the AFC, and then Eagles, you know, probably going to be a tough out again
Yep.
this year. We'll get to see
Makai Lemon.
yeah, we'll get to
Makai
see
Lemon.
how he but
How he
yeah,
would have
but
done.
yeah. But for a first place schedule, it's strange because these are all really tough opponents. But in terms of how are they going to win the division again this year, it's a first, second, and third shot at that. So it's not across the board like Vegas expects all these teams to run those divisions again this year. So
Yeah, and that 9.9 average win total is doable. It's not like it's a 13, 14 win team that you're kind of seeing up here. So it just again, these are going to be tough matchups, and we have our work cut out for us.
sure, yeah. So now we've kind of we're going to set the table in terms of these matchups and the metrics, not components, but now we kind of want to look at a really granular level how these sort of season long trends are actually going to look as we kind of run through the schedule. So, we kind of obviously there's 18 weeks, so we kind of broke them up into these sort of like 6-week chunks. In the beginning of the schedule, obviously the net rest is going to be 0 to start the year, but going on the road to the AFC champion from last year, and they're going to be coming off of a Thursday game. So they're going to have 4 extra days of rest. I mean, that is a big challenge for a new coaching staff right out of the gate.
Yep.
Um,
Dang.
yeah. So then just to break it down too, I just kind of took this from Warren Sharp's website, but he was looking at the different sports books average of how many wins they're projected for this season. Again, it's Stone Age to me to look at, oh, how many games did they win last season? That's their strength of schedule. Obviously, then you're going to look at a team like the Chiefs and say, oh, that's an easy matchup. Like, obviously they're not, right? So yeah, on the right, we can just get a quick glance. Okay, how good are these teams? How many wins are they projected for the opponents in this 6-game slate to kind of compare to the net rest advantage in that first color graded column there. And then the mileage advantage is that second column, right? So, if you're at home, it's basically how far do they travel to get to you? And if you're on the road, it's going to be in red and show how many miles we have to travel to the opponent. So,
Yeah, week 2 is a bummer, man. Like it's not only the AFC champion from last year, and I mean, thank goodness that it's not a very far trip, but just -4 net rest is that's a hard turnaround. And yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay is the farthest, at least for the first 6 games, and a net rest of 3, but they weren't the NFC champions. So I guess just based off of how well those teams did, I should say, last year, that New England game was going to be tough for us going to Gillette Stadium with not as much rest.
yeah. And so another thing that I've really wanted to drill down on too, I think way less than other divisions. I don't think there's too many really big like injury storylines for any of our teams, really. I mean, obviously Lamar was hurt last year, but I think other than like, maybe Quinshawn Judkins on the Browns, there's not too many like key starters who are going to be rehabbing like into the year potentially, but there
Yeah.
are some of our non-common opponents and some of our common opponents. So I think one of the biggest deciders to me in terms of the schedule or just big swings is when we play the Colts.
Mhm.
You guys are kind of in the middle. You play in week 5. It's possible Daniel Jones starts on PUP and can't even play the first 6 games, which obviously would include this. It's possible that they don't put him on PUP, but he's not looking good, right? So he's not really playing well, or he's just on the inactive, right? Whereas a healthy Daniel Jones later in the season, I mean, with the moves they've made, could be a pretty tough out.
Yeah,
So
might
yeah,
look
week five,
completely different.
yeah, I think that 5 is pretty good to see the Colts. So
I'll take it.
um, yeah, and yeah, you mentioned the Tampa Bay road trip, but you know, I think that is the worst one in terms of true road games that we're going to have for the Steelers. So yeah, we can roll through to the next 6 weeks here, and this this involves the big road trip. So you know, I, I'll kind of leave it to you on how I kind of see this part. This is another sort of tricky third of the schedule. It's 7,777 miles to Stade de France, but so again, at first I sort of looked at these international games as being just just crap for both teams, right? But looking at them more, I do think that and this is part of the reason why I wanted to look at the net mileage advantage, because it's not, obviously, it's not going to add up to 0 over the end of the year. There's going to be an advantage either way. As far away as France is, the Pittsburgh is 1,783 miles closer than New Orleans and one time zone less of a change. So I think that the Steelers actually have quite a bit of an advantage. Uh, I don't know how much the cultural shared culture of New Orleans and France is going to really help them at all. So
Probably not. Probably not. And shoot, like I'll take anything. I'll take any kind of advantage we can. And again, just when you put it down in black and white, how all of this can potentially put a team at an advantage or a disadvantage. It's yeah, it's crazy. The first, the one that draws my attention the most is Week 11 against Philly, -7 net rest. I mean, that's basically a bye week, right? And
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
fortunately, traveling to Philly is really not that far from Pittsburgh.
right.
But yeah, that's a lot of rest to give up, and that'll also be a tough one. I mean, obviously they're not part of the AFC North, but Philly is definitely an interesting one this year. I really don't know how well they're going to do. There just continues to always be so much change and whatnot there. But anyway, nonetheless, any NFL team with a -7 net rest is it's going to be hard regardless of whatever team you play. So, ooh, got a lot of got a lot of work to put in to prepare for this season, and everyone got to stay healthy.
Yeah. And I mean, again, so to look at these first 2 6-game slices, your toughest games are both being in each 6-game stretch are being played at a huge rest disadvantage and are on the road. So that's not fun, right? But and then right in the middle there though is that road game at Cincinnati that could be huge for the division. And you can see they kind of balanced it, right? Cuz obviously, the Steelers have their international game in the stretch, but the Bengals do too. And they're going to be coming off that road trip, really long road trip. So you're going to Cincinnati, but the Bengals are coming off a game in Spain, and the Steelers are coming off their bye. So I think that is basically a
Huge.
must-win game for the Steelers.
Yeah.
You gotta,
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta
That's
be able to
huge.
perform on the road there. Yeah. So a big test after the bye. And so another thing I wanted to bring up too, the schedule varies at the NFL. I over and over again, when that specter of a big West Coast or Pacific time zone road trip comes up, every single time we avoid it. All of our teams, I think. I don't think any of our teams go to the Pacific. Spoiler alert, but I don't think any of us go out there. So, you know, that Denver game, that means you avoid the high altitude, of course, and you avoid that really long road trip to a West Coast opponent. I think that's a really nice,
I like
and of
that.
course, yeah, you're making them come over almost 1,500 miles to you. So a lot to
That
think about there,
helps.
but yeah, for sure.
I'll take anything.
For the Houston game, that's another huge game. You have a rest advantage for the Texans, whereas I think the Ravens and Bengals don't when you play Houston. So in terms of common opponents, that could be, hopefully for the Steelers, you win that one, and then your common opponent conference, if there's, because the tiebreakers could potentially come into play,
Yeah.
could mean something there.
Definitely a revenge game from last year.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, they have embarrassed both of our teams. So, and yeah, then we get into the divisional gauntlet here, right? So,
Yeah. Why do
um,
they do this every year where we play Baltimore twice at like the very end of the year? Why do they do that? That's so
yeah, I
brutal.
mean, they don't want anybody to be able to take a game off, right?
Yeah.
They have to, everyone has to play, which
Yeah.
is again part of my gripe with the 17 game schedule is it's the longest it's ever been, obviously. There's more traveling than there's ever been. So there's these wide swings of rest between teams. It's hard for your body to get, comfortable as an athlete. And then, yeah, there's just, especially in a divisional context, it's huge to have a disadvantage schedule wise that way. So, you know, both games against the Ravens, if it does come down to Ravens Steelers, you're going to be at a slight disadvantage and then a big disadvantage. So you can see the script writers saw that they wrote that Tyler Loop missed kick to send Tomlin off with a win, and then now maybe they're going to write in a Ravens win, with that extra rest time coming off the mini bye. So
And Pittsburgh definitely has to be careful week 16 and 17. I mean, just because, well, like with Tennessee, for example, I mean, the expectations are going to be low, but especially at the very end of the season, if you kind of approach it that way, that often leads to an upset. So Pittsburgh definitely still needs to stay on track weeks 16 and 17, despite those opponents not being crazy, crazy good. So
yeah, and that's another thing. I don't know how exactly to weight it, but I think you'd rather, with a new coaching staff and a second-year quarterback, you'd rather play Tennessee early in the season versus late when maybe they're gelling a little bit.
yeah,
Maybe they're
got a
figuring some
coaching
things out.
change, and
Yeah,
whoever is the new head coach, everyone loves them, and they start doing well. So yeah, no, you want to kind of start off the season hot with Atlanta and Tennessee versus Atlanta and the Patriots at Gillette. Shoot.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a tough run, but there's a couple little advantages built in there.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, jumping to the Ravens, pretty balanced, I think, right? 3 days rest advantage, 3 games rest deficit, -3 net rest days, but that's nothing compared. That's 21st, so it's below, it's tougher than average, but it's manageable more so than obviously the Chargers, right? If you look at the divisional games, though, the net rest advantage is -3. I do think that could be meaningful.
yeah,
An almost 3,000 mileage advantage, though, which is very nice.
yeah,
So their teams are traveling a lot more than we are out. 21st most total miles traveled. 10 game average for the opponents who are not for our non-common opponents. A week 13 bye, which I like.
yeah.
But yeah, the sixth easiest schedule in the league. So
I,
benefits of a second place schedule, right?
I
So
guess so. Whatever. Whatever.
yeah. So yeah, drilling it down a little bit in there. So it's kind of a mixed bag, right? I mean, again, looking at Buffalo, I mean that's the second place team, but they're the first in the Vegas odds to win the AFC East this year. Chargers, another good team, I think, with
Yeah,
the challenges that we've mentioned. Dallas, who knows? They still have the second best odds to win the division this year. But it comes out to, if you look at these different average of these different sports books, about a 10 win expected for these opponents. So similar to the Steelers. And yeah, running real quickly through this here, right off the top, another thing why I wanted to look at this. I mean, there's no chance Daniel Jones is full strength week 1. He probably won't
no,
even play.
no.
So that road trip to Indianapolis, that obviously it's the first game with the new coaching staff, but that's close to a must win, with
That's not
everything
that bad.
going
Yeah.
going their way. Yeah. And then, the Saints, is this potentially going to be before the schedule release, is this going to be a road trip to the central time zone? Nope, they're coming here, right? So we don't have to worry about that. Similar to the Steelers, our international game against Dallas, yeah, it's obviously a really far trip, but we're 851 miles closer than Dallas and one time zone closer. So they're going to be a little bit more slightly discombobulated. So again, I think that's a sort of sneaky advantage that the Ravens have that I don't think people are really considering much. Like we talked about, this is a pretty early Tennessee matchup where they're probably going to be struggling a little bit. They're probably just, again, trying things out that might not work. They're still in that trial and error phase, and there's probably going to be a lot more errors in the beginning of the season. So really like that. At Atlanta, again, it's again, why I'm bullish on the schedule, all of these road trips, even when you look at the mileages when we have to go on the road, there's no time zone difference, right? I mean, if we were playing all AFC West opponents, we'd be looking at least 4 big time zone jumps for those opponents. And there's just none really this year. I'm really loving this first part of the schedule. I mean, I'm not unique in saying that. A lot of people have mentioned it's a nice runway to start for a new coaching staff. And then week 7 to 12, this is, again, I think it's kind of, this stretch is kind of mixed for the Steelers. I mean, this is other people have mentioned this, but week 7 and 8, we're playing arguably the 2 strongest teams on our schedule. Both of them are going to be coming off a bye, and we're playing them in back-to-back weeks. I mean, that is just brutal.
That's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cincinnati gets a whole week to rest up and game plan, and that could be huge for the division there. I mean, if they the stage is kind of set schedule wise for a potential Bengals sweep, which obviously I would hate, but they do have a big advantage there. We're going to go at Buffalo. It's not as cold as like a later matchup
Yeah.
on November 1st, but I mean, that is going to be just absolutely brutal. And I think another reason why we might think the thumbs on the schedule for the negative here against the Ravens. But again, moving down with the Chargers here, right? Before the schedule release, is this going to be a really tough West Coast road trip? No. We're at home with a mini bye in prime time where they have to travel 2,300 miles to come to Baltimore. So with a 3-day rest. So it couldn't have been more favorable of a circumstance to beat the Chargers. So, yeah. And again, at Carolina, we're coming off Monday night, so a 1-day rest disadvantage, but it's Carolina, right? You just hopefully you can beat them. But yeah, at Houston, that is, I think, the longest domestic road trip for the Ravens. That's going to be really tough. Houston's coming off a mini bye. That's going to be really a huge challenge if the recent years have been any indication. And now here we kind of get to the meat of the schedule. We get Tampa Bay at home, which is nice. And this is going to be the Pittsburgh road game. I think you guys are playing on Monday night before, so we do get 1 day disadvantage of rest, but arguably fairly negligible. I think statistically, a 1-game advantage hasn't been huge, right? It's really over a big sample. It's the 3+ game advantages that matter. But boy, like we mentioned, obviously,
Cincinnati again.
Yeah, coming off a bye, and then the net rest is 0, but it's a road Thursday game. That's pretty much the worst thing you can have on your schedule. And it's in the division. Like I just think that it's crazy to have that. Like Cincinnati Bengals fans have been just whining about their schedule, particularly how they face the Ravens in prime time a lot. This is a huge overcorrection, in my opinion, to force the Ravens to go to Cincinnati with potentially the division on the line. That's crazy to me. That is going to be a huge test. Yeah.
Oh, I'd rather have Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, and yeah, coming off a Cleveland game, they might be just looking to hurt somebody with their season probably over at that point.
Yeah,
They're not going to be
for
pulling any
sure.
punches on the Ravens. So,
No, for sure.
couple days to recover and then get on the bus or plane to Cincy. And then that does mean that we get a mini bye at home against the Steelers. So if that is the game that decides the division, I mean, that's pretty favorable for us, obviously. So,
Yeah.
I
You can
haven't looked at
play
the research. Yeah.
week 14, can play against Ruben Vane.
Oh yeah, that's true. We got that's going to be a lot of draft takes are going to be flying after probably the first drive
Yeah.
already from I
Just
hadn't
wanted
thought
to
of that.
throw that in there.
Yeah. So our first round pick, Rhodes not taken, will be really scrutinized for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, the last 4 games, all divisional. So
That's oh man, that sucks.
yeah, but it'll be exciting. It'll
Yeah.
be exciting, man. I just looking back again at the schedule. I mean, obviously, this is with the Ravens facing 5 playoff teams to start off last season. I just I just remember even in week 4, I was just looking at the results of every game, like, oh, how is this going to affect our potential seeding in the AFC playoffs? And by week 6 is like, don't worry about the AFC seeding.
Yeah.
If you're a Ravens fan,
I
that
know.
ship has sailed, brother.
Yeah.
Worry about the division maybe, but you're not going to be chasing a bye
No.
in this year. So yeah, now we get to the Bengals, who, it's another mixed bag. -3 net rest days for the season, but +3 for the division, with all the we've already kind of covered a lot of it. Still with a positive mileage advantage. I think every AFC North team has a significant mileage advantage, which again that's not a given, right? Even though we play these teams that are close to us, we're having a home and away for each of those divisions, right? But the way that they've, put the schedule in terms of total travel advantage over the opponents, is still significantly positive for all of our teams. Even with an international game, 24th most travel, so one of the lower mileage totals. They're only facing a 7.5 average.
Just about to say that, like, 7.5.
Yeah, winnable, right? Yeah,
Winnable, bro.
yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, can take them. Yeah, can take them, bro. Yeah.
Man.
And yeah,
7.5.
yeah,
It's ridiculous.
right. It's again for a third place team, right? Like the Bengals, who is, obviously a contender. So they're looking down the barrel of the 3rd easiest schedule in the entire NFL, 2nd in the AFC, I think, just after the Bills. So yeah, it's funny. One of the reasons why that really made me want to do this episode is seeing that they had the Chiefs matchup, because okay, that's a 3rd place team, the Chiefs. I mean, come on, right? But their other 2 third place opponents are like true 3rd place teams or worse, right? So there is a sort of like poetry. It's kind of ironic that 2 of the sort of teams that had down years last year but really should be contenders this year are playing each other. So there's a kind of fairness in that, And yeah, their other 2 teams are terrible, right? At
Look at
Miami,
that.
well, actually, yeah, at Miami is bad. Yeah,
4.5.
yeah. The Commanders is a wild card though. Like, it's definitely possible that if Jay Daniels is healthy, they could be a lot higher than that 8-win average. So
You could totally turn it around. Yeah.
yeah,
By being healthy.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't have too many notes on the Bengals here at the start. There's no net rest advantage or disadvantage for the first 6 weeks. So it's and then they go into their bye, right?
Pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't love having the bye early, but they're taking that bye so they can play the Ravens off of it. So ideally your bye would be later in the season, but you'd love it, for a division, get you prepped for a division rival, right? So.
Yeah.
So yeah, all things considered, a week 6 bye is not favorable, but yeah, it's worth it there. Also worth noting maybe that I think the only say teams have in the schedule is they are allowed to take their bye after their international game if they have one. And all 3 AFC North teams decided they don't want that. They'd rather just, play the field, right? So they are going to play the Steelers, after that international game. That's going to be a really, really tough game for them week 10. And then again, if the Commanders are do end up being good this season, which they might be, you're not going to want to play them coming off their mini bye either.
Hmm.
So that's going to be a potentially tough one. But again, looking down the barrel of a potential long road trip, oops, they don't have to. The Saints instead have to come to us. So for whatever reason, the schedule people, at the NFL let us avoid those long trips.
What week again was Kansas City?
So
Week.
Kansas City is week 14. But so Kansas City is coming off a mini bye, but they do have to travel to Cincinnati. So this will be potentially one of the big, matchups on the calendar.
Yeah, I was curious about when the game would be because if it was like at the start of the season, not 100% sure yet if Mahomes will be back by then. But by this time, I'm sure he'll be back, and it could be a good game.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I did kind of think, okay, how's it going to factor in, right? Week 14, they'll probably be a well-oiled machine, but maybe Rashi Rice gets suspended for something else by then, and they don't have him again. So I mean, maybe it won't
Dude,
work
that
out
guy
for
is
them.
a
But
hot mess. That guy's a hot
yeah,
mess. He shouldn't be in the league anymore.
yeah. Ugh. But I mean, again, this is a frame where the quarterback injury narrative comes up pretty big here because you know going to Indianapolis in Week 16, that could be a really, really tough game if Daniel Jones is close to full strength and their defense is meshing more this year
Yep.
after integrating all their new additions. So and then we get obviously we've talked about the Baltimore Week 17 game. They're at home. It's a short week. Everything's going their way if that's the division decider. So a lot of nuance here, I think, to the Bengals schedule. I think,
Yep.
facing the Chiefs and Cold Slate, those are sneaky big disadvantages for them in the schedule that I don't think people are really talking about that much.
And I hope Cleveland somehow plays spoiler with that last game.
Yeah, that would be epic, right? They really have something to play for, and I mean, as we're going to get into, they have a little bit of a favorable runway too. So I'm really hoping that Todd Monken's not one of those like sacrificial one and done rebuild coaches. He's got a chance to prove himself this year. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and he could.
yeah.
Hey, shout
So
out to my the schedule release. Yeah, that was the Cleveland one was by far my favorite. It was
yeah,
actually really funny, and I remember especially against the divisional opponents. I forget exactly what they were, but I just remember thinking that these effing a-holes.
yeah. No, it was. I mean, you have so little to live for as a Browns fan. You should at least get some get some good stuff from your PR team. So obviously I had to crop someone out of this thing here who's no longer on the team when they put all the work into that video, but
That was crazy, man. That was crazy when that happened.
yeah,
Completely floored. But
yeah,
well, I'll take it. I'll take it. I don't
yeah.
want to play against Miles Garrett anymore.
No, it's awesome. But so the Browns, I mean, they have a 0 net rest, but -3 net rest days in the division. Well, the smallest mileage advantage of 302, but they have the 31st most total miles traveled of any team in the NFL. So they're staying home a lot, not traveling a lot, not going international. 6.3. Yeah. They're not export ready yet. That's for
No,
domestic
no,
consumption
they're
only.
not.
So, but they've got a week 11 bye, which I think is nice, and the fourth easiest schedule. So, it's possible. It's possible they could surprise people, right? Going into the non-common opponents. I mean, these are just. I mean, they're bad teams. Raiders at Jets at Giants. We'll see, right?
We'll
That's
see.
going to be a really fun one with Todd Monken going up against his old head coach. That'll be a
Yep,
pretty interesting
yep,
narrative game.
yep. No, 100%. Who
Yeah.
knows, man? The Giants might also surprise the league too. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're fourth in division odds, but I think that might be underselling them a little bit. They're plus
Yeah,
600, right?
yeah.
Um, So yeah, again, not a lot. There's just not a lot really to comment on with the Browns here. Some big mileage disadvantages with going to Jacksonville, going to Tampa Bay. You definitely don't want to be going on the road for your first two games as a head coach, but that's just how it is for them. Then yeah, they've got just a mini bye after the Pittsburgh game. You know, I would love for them to play spoiler here in week 4. At home against Cleveland on a short week.
I
But yeah,
hate
again,
Thursday night football, man. I hate Thursday football.
it shouldn't be for divisional games. It just shouldn't. No, it shouldn't be for a divisional matchup. I think
Yeah,
it's just too much of a decider to. Yeah, it would be easy for them to get rid of that, and instead they seem to be almost leaning into it this year, which
yeah,
is annoying for sure. And then again, they don't have to go on the road much, right? They are on the road to New Orleans, which is tough, but they get Houston at home, which is nice, and then they don't have to go to Las Vegas. So pretty balanced, right? They've got New Orleans coming off the bye, but then they get the Raiders at home. So kind of balanced, right?
I'd rather travel to New Orleans than Vegas, the distance wise.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Central Time Zone, that's tough, but easier than the Pacific. So
Yeah,
and then again, not a whole lot of net rest days. And again, that comes from again, the punishment of being there's so much more volatility when you're a good team because you're getting those primetime games, which are at weird times.
yeah,
So the Browns just sort of just a little pretty ho hum. They're not playing in prime time much.
yeah,
Um, Only note I have here is, again, week 17 against Daniel Jones and the Colts could be difficult.
yeah,
You much prefer it earlier, but it is what it is. It's a rebuilding year, but again, with such an easy schedule, I don't think it's that crazy that they win 7 games, something like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
which, I think, I don't think you should fire a coach taking over this team after sending out Myles Garrett if Monk could win 7 games. So,
No, yeah, no, he should keep it for sure.
yeah, so that's, we kind of went last year's finish 1-4. Um, yeah, how has this kind of changed your thoughts going into the season, right?
My mind is blown. I've been saying that the entire episode. My mind is blown. I had no idea that I mean, you can dive into anything super deep, and that's just shame on me for not for not doing it before today. But I just found this fascinating, and it changed. It definitely altered some of my expectations for this season, and not just for the Steelers, but for all four AFC North teams. And so this was a fantastic exercise, and we'll see what happens. And especially from at the very beginning when we talked about how this could be we all four teams may not get a window like this for quite some time, if ever again, at least within our lifetimes. So all four teams really got to take advantage this year, and all teams have things to play for, and it's going to be a year, man. I think it's going to be a year for all four teams.
Yeah, and it's setting up a potentially fascinating trade deadline where is this year to go all in? Because it's a really great schedule opportunity, but we're looking at a really, really talented draft next year.
Yeah,
So teams are going to be weighing like how the cost and the opportunity at the trade deadline are going to be really wide on either side. So yeah, hopefully we're all buyers at that time, but
yeah,
we
no, for
we
sure,
shall see.
for sure. I mean, the Browns, I mean, the quarterback graveyard, and they still are figuring that thing out. And next year is a much more loaded draft at QB, so they might be like, F it. So, but I mean, it's not like the Steelers. I mean, we have Aller and Howard, and even them, we're like, I don't really know like what to expect from those guys. And this is supposed to be Rodgers' last year, so. But the Steelers are not going to tank. That's just not who they are. That's not their culture. So I can see them at the deadline making some big splash. And I was like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just not in their DNA, yeah, to just lay down, so, yeah.
Well, folks, that's it. Mind blown. I can't stop saying that. My mind is absolutely blown, and I hope yours is blown as well. I mean, this is the kind of content we have on this channel. So please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Just let's go, AFC North brothers. Thank you so much for joining us today. He's Matt. I'm Ryan. We'll see you in the next one.